We are back with you live once again with another Johnnie Torch live broadcast. Broadcast number 161 today, and we have Torch News Roundup number 140. Wow. Wow. We've got a lot of things to talk about today. We're going to start the show a little bit earlier. I originally had it scheduled for 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but there was a expected thunderstorm in the air, so I couldn't take my afternoon constitutional, as I like to do, and go for a walk, get some exercise. So I figured I might as well start it an hour earlier, and, no harm, no foul. I do want to point out, I typed this in the chat, in case anybody's watching the show live, we are not going to be reading from the chat today because I've had it happen to me time and again. People believe spoilers for the most recent movie that's been out. And as much as I'm kind of loath to see Spider Man Far From Home, I am going to see it on Tuesday. And I'd really rather not have it spoiled for me. There supposedly is some great end credit, mid credit scenes that are going to be something to talk about. I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about when we do the spoiler review on Wednesday. So please, no spoilers in the chat, no spoilers in the comments. Uh, like I said, show up on Wednesday. We'll talk about it then. If you have any other topics you want me to talk about, leave them in the chat and I will address them either next week, or if there's enough news, I try to do another show sometime in the middle of the week, depending on what the situation is. Again, just to reiterate, if you hear any thunder in the background, or if the power goes out, or any other cool things happen on the air live, you'll know what it is. I also don't know if you can hear the fan. I'm having a hard time getting the fan in the optimum direction. I don't know how other YouTubers do it, but I can't have it blasting in my face while I'm trying to do the show. That's kind of distracting. But welcome in once again on the only way to spend your Saturday here with us on Johnnie Torch Live. Got to throw the catchphrase in there every once in a while. Please check out The Adventures of Bullets Bourbon Private Eye, our comic book series that we are now working very diligently on the 7th issue. And of course, if you're following the progress of the graphic novel, we've got that still in the works. My editor is putting it together even as we speak, I hope. But he said it would be ready by mid-July, so we're on pace to have that out and ready for you to peruse for your entertainment privileges. Now, also check out the link in the description below for the link to my Twitter page. You can see all the drama going on there. Everybody loves the drama, and that's what we're going to talk about today on the show. But also check out the Adventures of Bullets Bourbon Private Eye website. And, we've got 6 issues out already, and a lot of them are 99 cents on digital download. I think there's 2 of them that are $1.50. Either way you look at it, it is a bargain. So check them out. And you can check them out very cost effectively because, like I said, I want to price my comics as reasonably as possible because I know I wouldn't want to spend a lot of money on an unknown commodity. And I very much try to keep my prices low. And hopefully by the time we get around to Granite State Con, which is I guess the final destination on this year's tour, the Coffee is for Closers tour, I was going to try to get another gig sometime in July, but it's not shaping up too well for that. So it might be Granite State might be our closing sonata, if you will. And hopefully I can see if I can get some of the prices a little bit lower for readers by then, because we'll have the big graphic novel out, and I'm going to try to liquidate some of the older issues that I have in my catalog there, mark them down a little bit, because only the graphic novel will be available at that point. Okay, so amid the background of thunder, we are going to talk about, oh man, the SJWs done broke me. We'll save that for later. Right now, let's talk about some of the news here that's come out recently. Christopher McQuarrie, this is our first topic here. Christopher McQuarrie and Henry Cavill pitched a Superman movie to the studio presumably after they found great success working together on the most recent Mission Impossible movie, which would have tied into a Green Lantern Corps movie the filmmaker also propositioned. Let's see. This is on his Twitter, I guess, on his Twitter page, because it's pretty pretty jumbled up. I'm trying to see how to read this in any semblance of coherency. Let's see. Too complicated to explain. It tied into the Superman movie that Cavill and I were proposing. No takers. They never said no, they just never moved on it. This was just before Fallout was released, and no, I would not reconsider. There's too many other things I want to do. The studios have never cared for my original ideas. They prefer that I fix their broken ones. Green Lantern was a written proposal. Superman was a pitch. When asked directly if his Superman movie would have tied directly into Green Lantern, McQuarrie said it certainly could have. So again, this is kind of a missed opportunity. It seems like we're having nothing but trouble trying to get another Superman movie off the ground. Would sort of tying it into the introduction of the DCEU's Green Lantern been the way to go? From last I heard, I think David Goyer, I think, was writing the Green Lantern Corps film. I'm not sure exactly if... I don't think he's directing. I think he was just writing. But either way, that was supposedly a go, and they were going to do that film up until... I don't know if it is on the docket anymore. I don't know if it's in the cards, but that is supposedly what they're going to do with Green Lantern. Interestingly, McQuarrie wanted to do a Superman movie. I guess he pitched a Superman movie, and now I guess those plans have gone by the wayside. We still don't really know the situation with Henry Cavill. Is he still a part of DCEU? Is he still assigned to Warner Brothers? Pardon a little sip of the H2O, a little glug glug. But yeah, this is interesting. I would have loved to see something like this happen, because I think there is a place for the team up movies. You know what I mean? I think they could do sort of like a Superman meets Green Lantern. You sort of soft introduce him into the DCU through a Superman movie. You know, that might have been the way to go. Hopefully they'll get something off the ground with Green Lantern soon. Hopefully Henry Cavill comes back. I was happy with him as Superman. I think he just didn't have very good movies to showcase his talents. I think Justice League, which is a film that I like a lot more than other people do, was a step in the right direction for the way Superman should have been written. And again, you know, Cavill was fine. Amy Adams is great as Lois Lane. There's nothing really wrong with this cast. The problem is Zack Snyder and his conception of what Superman was supposed to be. Of course, Release the Snyder Cut was trending again yesterday. And I tweeted out, whenever you see Release the Snyder Cut, what they're really saying is Release the Kinberg Cut. in the Dark Phoenix film that just came out. So let me know what you think there in the comments below. What do you think? Do you think Christopher McQuarrie written and or helmed Green Lantern / Superman movie was the way to go? Or do you think maybe this is just, you know, smoke on the water? I don't know. I probably would have liked to have seen it. I mean, I haven't seen any of the Mission Impossible movies, but it might have been cool. Might have been cool. All right, we'll stick with the DCEU here for a second. Let's talk about The Flash. Oh, yes. The Flash is still in production, pre-production, with scripts being written left and right, with new directors coming and going. And this is, to my recollection, this is the 43rd Flash director that has gotten the gig since the DCEU was announced back in, I don't know, when was Batman v Superman announced? And it was like from that point on, the speculation was we were going to get a Flash movie, a Green Lantern movie, a Cyborg movie, and pretty much they've all gone by the wayside. The only thing that came out of that was the Aquaman movie and the Wonder Woman movie, but of course I think Wonder Woman would have gotten a movie one way or the other. Jason Momoa, of course, was a big draw for Aquaman, so there was probably a good chance that movie was going to be made. As for Ezra Miller, I don't think he's a big enough draw, and I think that's part of the reason why this thing isn't really getting off the ground. And to his credit, Ezra Miller has tried. He's tried his hand. At last I heard, I think the last we all heard, Grant Morrison and Ezra joined forces to try to create a different take on the character. I don't really mind Ezra Miller's Flash in Justice League. I think they kind of went a little too much in the Wally West vein. This is supposed to be the Barry Allen Flash, and the Wally West version is a bit more goofy, a little more lighthearted. All right, but anyway, let's see. The Flash movie lost directors John Francis Daly and Jonathan Goldstein. They are now officially parting ways with the Flash motion picture, but it gained filmmaker Andy Muschietti. Warner Brothers' solo outing for the Scarlet Speedster has been in and out of development for years now, with Daly and Goldstein just the latest in a long line of directors to depart the project. Last we heard, Ezra Miller, who is still on board to reprise the role of Barry Allen. So apparently he's not going anywhere, because let's just pause for a second here. Last I heard, this was a last-ditch effort by Ezra to remain with the project. I think he knows that basically, his claim to fame is going to be the Flash. I don't think anybody's going to really be hounding him for roles in, indie art house movies or whatever it was that he's done before this. So I think he really wants to land a good Flash movie. To his credit, that's great. The problem being that I think his contract was up in May, and he tried to get this movie in pre-production in order to get, in order to stay with the project. Let's see. Last we heard, Ezra was co-writing the latest draft of the script with comics author Grant Morrison. However, The Hollywood Reporter reports that Warner Brothers has decided not to move forward with their version of the Flash movie, and instead hired Christina Hodson of Bumblebee and Birds of Prey fame to pen a brand new screenplay. All right, so Hodson, I guess, is just coming off of Birds of Prey for Warner Brothers, and I think supposedly they like what they see with that film. I heard a lot of, there's a lot of rumor going around about it that it's going to be. They're saying that Black Mask is going to be really impressive. Ewan McGregor. Let's hope that turns out to be good. And Bumblebee was very successful, so maybe this will be the one. Maybe this will be the script that takes, or that they take, I should say. Previous reports indicate that Miller wanted a darker take on the character, which led to conflict with Daly and Goldstein, who were dead set on a lighter tone. That's kind of interesting, because Miller doesn't strike to me as the kind of guy that wants a dark take, you know what I mean? A guy that dresses like Princess Toadstool at a convention. He doesn't sound to me like the kind of guy. He doesn't seem like it anyway. That's gonna want a dark take on the Flash. I don't know if the Flash is a character that needs a dark take. But my favorite version of the character is the John Wesley Shipp version, which was, it was pseudo dark. You know what I mean? It was dark. It had the dark trappings, but it still had the cartoony, comic-y villains and stuff like that. So hopefully that's the happy medium they're going for. All right. Prep on The Flash is expected to begin in January of 2020. So let me know what you think here in the comments below. Looking forward to Ezra Miller returning and reprising the role of Barry Allen, the Flash, or should they kind of just part ways at this point and say, look, maybe we need a redo. Maybe we can get the Flash in a team-up movie like we were talking about Superman and Green Lantern. Originally, I think there was talk that it was going to be sort of a Flashpoint film where there was going to be a lot of, I don't know, supposedly cameos of like Wonder Woman, possibly Batman. We would have Cyborg playing a supporting role. That went by the wayside like a good 5 years ago, though. So your guess is as good as mine. All right, here's some more. This is sort of rumor mill stuff. from The Batman. A lot of people are speculating who's going to play Catwoman, the mysterious Catwoman. And the latest rumor is from Geeks Worldwide, who has, I guess, inside info that the 31-year-old actress. Well, see, here it is. I lost. I closed the wrong window. Oh man, what is her name? Now I'm gonna have to look it up. Just let me retype this in here. Catwoman actresses. All right, let's see. All right. Okay, it's all right. Talk amongst yourselves for a minute while I see if I can locate. Vanessa Kirby, yes, Vanessa Kirby. Yeah, that reminds me because they were saying Vanessa Hudgens was supposedly one of the top actresses they were looking at. Kirby, though, looks a little bit more like the Michelle Pfeiffer type Catwoman, which is what I'm hoping they're going for this time. I mean, Catwoman was never really a blonde, so I've never really felt that that was necessary for the role. But if you could see sort of the eyes, the bone structure, that she kind of resembles Michelle Pfeiffer a little bit more, which is kind of what I'm hoping they'll go for. I really can't see Hudgens as Catwoman anyway because she kind of, at least the only thing I know her from is that Superstore comedy where she played sort of like a Pollyanna type character, and she did that High School Musical stuff. But I don't know. I just I really don't see it. But let me know what you think here in the comments below. If Vanessa Kirby is your cup of tea. Let's see. There's been nothing even remotely confirmed about this gossip. Kirby has the dramatic chops to do the role justice, as evidenced by her Emmy-nominated work as Princess Margaret in Netflix's The Crown. She'll next be seen in Hobbs and Shaw. Yeah, that's what I've seen her from. I remember seeing the trailer for Hobbs and Shaw. Yeah, she looks like she's kind of she could do that action, that action stuff. Yeah, I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Who would you cast for Catwoman in The Batman? I, of course, have always said that I wanted to see Olivia Wilde. I think I mistakenly said she was like 38 or something. My apologies. I found out she was like 35, and that there is a possibility that she probably would be relatively in the same age range as Robert Pattinson, but I don't think they're going to go with someone older than Pattinson. It says here Kirby is 31, probably making her a slightly more likely candidate. All right, so let me know what you think in the comments below, and we move on once again. All right, this is exciting news to me, at least, where we have the first scenes of Bill and Ted Face the Music have been filmed, and we got a little bit of it on Twitter. On their Twitter site, they showed the first picture here. It looks like Ted is sort of corporate. He's still wearing sneakers, but he looks like he's dressed kind of corporate. And I like to know what happened to him. I think they said Ted's dad is also cast in the film, as well as Missy, who was Bill's stepmom and then became Ted's stepmom. Whose mom is she going to be in this one? I don't know. But maybe Death. Death is back in it as well. So that'd be interesting to see what happens there. Bill kind of looks like he's still rocking the same kind of clothes as he was in the films. So maybe he's still trying to get the band together while Ted is kind of moved on up in corporate. That might be paralleling the career paths that they had in real life. Alex Winter, great guy, but didn't really make a big impression in Hollywood in front of the camera. More so in back of it, and the opposite with Keanu. And everybody's saying, of course, this is the first time we've seen Keanu without a beard in, probably over a decade. So it is kind of interesting. I think I got one more image here. Let me see. We have the guys in the famous phone booth. So we do see them at some point getting into that famous phone booth, which, it's an interesting thing that it was a phone booth, because it's like that's so, passe now. You never see a phone booth anymore. And it's like it's a time travel device. I mean, that's the same thing I guess they use with Doctor Who. I'm really not a Doctor Who guy, so I don't know exactly what the history to that is. The British telephone booths. I'm not sure what they call them, but yeah, let's hope this turns out to be a good one. We're gonna have a couple of 80s classics coming back next year with Ghostbusters 2020. We're gonna have Bill and Ted Face the Music. Of course, Cobra Kai going into its third season. So the 80s live on. The 80s rock on. Okay, so that is all the nice and happy, kind and gentle news we have. If that's if that's the entertainment that you wanted, it was just a little speculation. That's fine. Now the ranting and the railing begins, because the SJWs done broke me. All right, first off, before we get into any of that, let's take a look at there's another news story that's similar but not quite. But whenever you mention Ryan Johnson or The Last Jedi, you're going to trigger me anyway. So, all right. So Daisy Ridley gave an interview with USA Today where she condones criticism of The Last Jedi. Thank you, Daisy Ridley, for condoning the criticism of The Last Jedi. I needed your approval to be able to criticize this piece of excrement that is The Last Jedi. And I'm being somewhat facetious. I mean, Daisy's a good kid, I'm sure. I don't really have anything against her. I don't bash her as an actress as much as some others have. She's fine. I wouldn't, you know, nominate her for an Oscar, but then again, who really is Oscar worthy in these days? Let's see. In the USA Today interview, she said, "I wasn't surprised. No, it's just a different thing. Everyone's going to have an opinion now anyway on the internet, but I also think it's fair. If people hold something incredibly dear and they think they know how it should be, and it's not like that, it's fair for people to think they were done wrong. It doesn't mean they were. Ultimately, Ryan's a filmmaker, and one person can't dictate how a film is supposed to be, but freedom of expression, sure." So there you have it. I guess you could look at it one of two ways. I mean, maybe she's being understanding, or maybe she's just trying to placate you know, the raw nerves of the fans, the open wounds still there are from The Last Jedi, and saying, "Look, please come back and see the next movie, please." I don't know. This is a picture, by the way, I found of Daisy cosplaying. Well, not cosplaying, but I mean the old fashioned superimposing someone's head on a different body or an artistic representation or something. But this is supposed to be Daisy as Batgirl. Daisy's eyes don't look like that in reality. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. If she becomes Batgirl, she'll end up having Super Saiyan powers or something. I don't know, but it's an interesting look. I don't know. But yeah, at least we've gotten Daisy's blessing. We've got Daisy's blessing to be upset with The Last Jedi, to be disappointed with it. And I don't know. You know my position on this at this point. I I I have zero interest in Rise of Skywalker. I know from the jump it's going to be an insult to my intelligence. They're not going to bring Luke Skywalker back. Mark Hamill has pretty much all but spat out his distaste for the entire trilogy, the sequel trilogy. Man, it's going to be heartbreaking, and I know I'm like going to have to see it. I'm not looking forward to seeing Far From Home after what they've done to Spider-Man, and we'll get to that in a moment. But even that, I'm looking forward to seeing Mysterio. I want to see Mysterio. I want to see what they're going to do with Rise of Skywalker. There's really little for me to hang my hat on. I mean, we're going to get Force Ghost Luke. Okay, we'll get to see Billy D. Williams behind the controls of the Falcon one more time. Okay, what else do I really care about in this film? I don't care about any of it. I mean, um, I don't know. The final fate of what they do with Kylo Ren and Raylo. I don't care. I just don't care. And it's so sad to me that the SJWs broke me with this movie. I just, how can you? There's so many people. This is what I mean. They broke me. I can't even make a coherent sentence. How can you take a beloved franchise like Star Wars and just crush it and destroy it so completely that fans are just not even wanting to see these films? Now, if you would have told me when I was 10 years old, there's going to be a sequel trilogy, you're going to see Luke Skywalker again, because, in the late 80s, we waited a couple of years and it was like pretty much we knew it was over. And so by the time I was 10 years old, it's like Star Wars is over. Nothing else you can do with it. Now, if you'd have told me then, don't worry about it. You'll see Luke Skywalker again. We're going to get the band back together. We're going to see a new villain. It's going to be cool. You're going to have excitement of Luke as a master Jedi. Don't, don't tell me that when you were 10 years old, or however old you were when the original trilogy was over, don't tell me you wouldn't have been excited by that. Don't tell me that you didn't fantasize about what the next episode was going to be, what the next saga was going to be, whatever. Anybody on this earth that Star Wars means anything to would have came up with a better, all right, we'll say 2 movies at this point because we haven't seen the third, but let's face it, the third, they've already screwed themselves. Where are they going to go with this third chapter? And, there were so many fans that would have written a better film. And of course, I kind of don't like saying it, but I tentatively have to say it. I blame George Lucas. I mean, the guy should have took a producer role. He should have kept the rights. He should have said, look, these are the storylines you're doing. Somebody write the script. I'll give you script approval, and somebody else direct it. That's what he should have done. He should not have sold it to Disney. Now, I feel badly because I think at the announcement, I was sort of pleased with the idea. I said, well, George doesn't want to do it. Just let somebody else do it. Don't let it die with Lucas. But at the same time, if this is what we were going to get, maybe Star Wars should have just stood on the shelf. Maybe they could have done a television series. I don't know, a couple more animated series or something. But to have taken something so beloved and to have pounded it into the ground and just destroyed it to the point where the people that loved it and cherished it and wanted so desperately to see this franchise live on in perpetuity now are turning their back on it. Solo was the first failure at the box office. I would never have imagined that a Star Wars movie would have been a failure at the box office, and yet we have one now. So again, I don't know. It's just another in a long line of SJWs who put the politics before the story. We had to minimize Luke Skywalker's role. We had to emasculate Luke Skywalker. We had to make sure Rey didn't need no man, didn't need to be trained, didn't need any special background. She just came out fully formed as a Jedi Master. And again, this is nothing against Daisy. This is just the way the whole storyline was written. They basically sold out Han Solo, making him another screw up, another you know guy that just went regressive, while Princess Leia is the only one that was proactive and going forward and being the crux of the whole story. Since when was Princess Leia ever the crux of Star Wars? The whole storyline was based around Anakin Skywalker and his redemption through his son Luke Skywalker. Now, if you can't see where you could have continued on with the next generation with that storyline, there's something wrong with you. You can't you know, just marginalize these great characters. Again, we can go over this until we're blue in the face, but just look at what the Karate Kid franchise has done with Cobra Kai. They have not minimalized the old characters, the original characters. They still have an important part to play. They haven't radically altered their their behaviors the way they are. They haven't embarrassed themselves, and that's exactly where we've gotten with Star Wars, where we've just embarrassed each and every member of the original trilogy cast. I'm sure Billy D. Williams is going to get his moments of embarrassment as well. Carrie Fisher, even though they pretty much built this sequel trilogy around her, she wasn't even exempt of this embarrassment with the Mary Poppins scene and everything. So it's just going to go down in history as another franchise destroyed by SJWs who didn't know what the heck they were doing. They didn't know they weren't fans, so they didn't know how to appeal to fans. And they just completely pummeled this franchise into the ground. And, again, this is not something I enjoy saying. I wish that we would have gotten the sequel trilogy that those of us who are fans, all dreamed about when we were kids, and it just didn't happen. It just didn't happen. And who do we have to thank? The SJWs. They done broke me. All right, let's move on to the next topic here now. And our next topic is gay Spider-Man. Yes, gay Spider-Man. This is the topic that's come up I don't know how many times. For some reason, people would have you believe that Spider-Man is synonymous with homosexuality. I don't understand it. We got the same question back when Andrew Garfield was Spider-Man. And Garfield said the same thing basically that Tom Holland said, which is, yeah, why shouldn't Spider-Man be gay? Spider-Man can be gay. Spider-Man can be anything. And that's this new, again, this SJW, concept that everything has to be changed. You know what I'm saying? It's like Stan Lee himself had said this, and I probably should have looked up that quote in order to hammer the point home. But even Stan Lee said, look, I don't have a problem with gay characters. I don't have a problem with black characters. I don't have a problem with female characters. But I created Peter Parker. He's a straight white man. He should stay a straight white man. I mean, you want to make Miles Morales? All right, you've made a, black, biracial Spider-Man. You want to make a gay Spider-Man? Well, you make a gay Spider-Man. But there's no real reason to force these kind of things on the character when he was created and conceived as a straight white man. Let's get to the report here. Let me see what Tom Holland said. Holland said, yeah, of course, when asked if he'd be okay with Spider-Man being gay. I can't talk about the future of the character because honestly, I don't know and it's out of my hands, but I do know a lot about the future of Marvel and they're going to be representing lots of different people in the next few years. The world isn't as simple as a straight white guy. It doesn't end there, and these films need to represent more than one type of person. Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige has already gone on record saying the next phase of Marvel will include the MCU's first openly gay character. We haven't been shy about saying that that's coming and that there's much more prominent LGBT heroes in the future. The executive told IO9 last month it's coming soon. So again, when you have a character like Spider-Man, and what was Spider-Man known for in the comics? It was basically all the babes. I mean, right? You know what I mean? He had the villains. He has got the second best rogues gallery behind Batman. You could say he has the best rogues gallery, maybe. It's a toss-up. But the second thing you think of with Spider-Man is the babes. He had so many girlfriends in those comics because basically it was like Andy Hardy. That's a lot of time. That's before your time, but it was like a series where Mickey Rooney was sort of playing, I think the prototype sort of Archie Andrews, where he was like having girl troubles and didn't know where he was going to get enough money to take a girl out, and his car wouldn't work and this and that. And, that's what the whole story was. Now, why would you change that? Why do you need to not have, one of the core tenets of the character be represented? I mean, we can go down a long list. We got Betty Brant, Gwen Stacy, Mary Jane, Felicia Hardy. There's like Deborah Whitman. What was that other girl's name? April something or other. you just go through the entire whatever it is now, 45 years of 50 years, is it, of Spider-Man, and that's what you see. Is you see that he's always been straight, and this is the problem that we have when we change characters with their personality traits, like we did with Iceman. Now all of a sudden Iceman is gay, and all that stuff in the comics of him. Now I can't name all his girlfriends off the top of my head, but you're supposed to just pretend, well, that didn't happen because we need representation. That's the almighty representation. We can't just have, the character behave as the character always behaved, because it's too difficult to create a new gay character. And that's the point, that nobody is complaining about there being gay characters. There's nobody complaining about there being uh, bisexual characters or something. The problem is when you try to take an established character and change them. And the idea is that, well, it's like everybody's got to be gender neutral. It's like, well, why can't we just say that after a couple of years Spider-Man decided he's gay? I mean, it don't work like that in real life. Most people have made up their minds on what you know uh, their orientation is, so to speak, by the time they've you know been a teenager, at least. It's kind of difficult to take these characters that have existed for 50 years and then try to say, well, Iceman just decided he's gay because Jean Grey sort of pulled that out of him. I don't know. I don't know. So let me know, what do you think about this whole non-issue of? I don't know why it keeps coming up. Why does it keep coming up with gay Spider-Man? I mean, it seems like Spider-Man is the one they always go to with this. I mean, like I said, they already kind of did this thing with Iceman, and it's equally ridiculous. But why Spider-Man? I mean, they don't go and be like, why can't Superman be gay? Why can't Batman be gay? Why can't the Flash be gay? It seems like, because Spider-Man is supposed to be sort of the, he's the young adult hero. You know what I mean? He starts off at 15 or 16. It seems like they want to have him be sort of this, this flag bearer for being gay as a superhero. I don't understand it. But we will continue on. And again, the SJWs, they ruin everything. I am just so sick of it. And I have to say, over this past weekend, I was this close to giving up Twitter, because I honestly don't want to see this stuff anymore. I'm tired of every single storyline, or every headline is another story about the SJWs want to change this, the SJWs want to change that. Why can't we just leave these things the heck alone? You know what I mean? This shouldn't even be a question. The question should not come up of why shouldn't Spider-Man be gay. The question should come up, why can't you create a gay character? And we know they have some, Marvel, especially with North Star. I think, what was the other one? Shatterstar. There's a bunch of characters that they have that they are not promoting very, very much, at least right now. Concentrate on one of them. You don't take one of these characters that has been around for 50 years and try to change them for the sake of representation. We'll get to that in a second now too, but let me know what you think in the comments below about gay Spider-Man. All right, next up, I'm going to talk a little bit about Disney and how Disney is now getting everybody up in arms as well. We've got some news about the Mulan movie. This is the live action movie. Now, Aladdin came out not too long ago, and I actually saw it. I wasn't going to see it. My brother wanted to see it because that was his favorite Disney movie as a kid. I loved it as well. My favorite Disney movie was always The Jungle Book. I seen that, the live action version of that as well, the Disney version. But beyond that, I don't watch the live action ones because it's just, they're pale imitations. I mean, they're good for entertainment value. I mean, I enjoyed The Jungle Book. I still think that you can't really have live, they're not live. They're for the most part, CGI animals. But I don't think you can have CGI animals singing like 1950s show tunes and still make it feel like it's authentic to the original material. So from the beginning, it's kind of a difficult chore. With the movies like Aladdin, where you actually have a human protagonist, it's a little bit easier, and I could take it a little bit easier. But of course, the SJWs kind of stepped in there. And apologies for the coughing. I think it's the dry air because, as I said, it's very, very hot here in New England. So I'm taking frequent sips of the old H2O. But yeah, the air quality is bad, bad up here. So yeah, the thunderstorm passed too, I'm pretty sure. So the Aladdin movie, they had it a little bit easier from the get-go because they had mostly human protagonists. They didn't, they sort of didn't use Iago as the comedic sidekick and so forth. So it wasn't perfect, but the SJWs did still install some, some strange. I didn't do a video review of this, and I probably should have, because it would have been interesting to really delve into what the problems of it were, even if the video was only 15 minutes, because I don't have a whole lot to talk about. But they installed this kind of storyline where Jasmine wanted to be the Sultan, and sort of everybody's sort of telling her to be quiet and sit down, and she has this sort of ham-fisted song about how she's always being told to be quiet and sit down, and she kind of at the end, in the last act, kind of has to stand up and sort of challenge Jafar. It's kind of it's just blatant SJW pandering, which I didn't understand because Jasmine was a very feminist character to begin with. They all were. Ariel, Belle, Jasmine, even well, in Mulan, it was even very preachy in those days, because it was like, Ariel didn't want to listen to her father, the patriarchy and this and that, and she had to go off and do her own thing, even though she, it's really revealed that father knows best, and she kind of messes up, when you're selling your voice to a to a demonic magic practitioner. It's you're not really doing the right thing. Belle was considered headstrong because she, was reading and was educating herself. Wasn't thought of as just being the perfect wife as her main goal. Mulan, of course, doing whatever a man could do in service. And Jasmine, of course, didn't want to be considered as a prize. She wanted to marry for love, didn't want to be married to a quote unquote overbearing stuffed shirt, and so forth. So there was really no need to build on Jasmine's character to make her more feminist. It's like, that's not enough. In the 90s, it was enough to just say, look, I want to marry for love. I'm not a prize to be won. Because that's a good message. You know what I mean? There was nobody was really complaining about that message. It was kind of a feminist message, but you can understand it. But now that's not enough. Now it's Jasmine should be the Sultan. Don't you understand that? I mean, we've got to change the laws so that a woman could be the Sultan. And it's like, well, that kind of is coming out of left field. I mean, wasn't really necessary. Didn't really have a big part in the original story about the Sultan. It's sort of like they changed the rules where she could marry anybody she wanted, but it wasn't like the main impetus was we had to change to make a woman the Sultan. So anyhow, now getting to Mulan, they apparently are going to drop all the songs. They're only going to play the songs as instrumental versions. And obviously, again, because the songs in Mulan were pure toxic masculinity. We had "I'll Make a Man Out of You," "How Dare You," "How Dare You, Donny Osmond." Sorry if that was too loud. "How dare you, Donny Osmond? Gonna make a man." I said, what if they want to be made a woman? How's about don't take the song out. Just change the song. "I'll make a woman out of you." How's about that? That would sell. That would sell these days. Not "I'll make a man out of you." Who the heck says that? And "A Girl Worth Fighting For." Well, you could probably still use that one as long as they were all trans. But they're taking all these songs out, and the only reason I can see is because of toxic masculinity. You can't have these songs in a movie in 2019 without offending somebody. And of course, the whole idea was that Mulan disguises herself as a man in order to take her father's place because her father's ill, and they're conscripting an army to fight the Huns. Apparently, the movie is also going to be featuring many changes. Let's see. Mushu is reportedly going to be replaced by a phoenix. I guess because a tiny dragon, a tiny wisecracking dragon, is not is not up to snuff. I'm not sure. Let's see. I'm gonna butcher these names. Apologies to everyone because I'm not trying to mispronounce any of these names. But Lou Liefeld, Lafai, I'm not sure, is going to be playing Mulan. Donnie Yen is going to be playing Commander Tung, a mentor and teacher to Mulan. He leads the Imperial Regiment, a new character who did not appear in the original film. Interesting. Uh, Wison An as Chen Hongoli, a confident and ambitious recruit who joins Commander Tung's unit, initially a rival of Mulan. He eventually becomes her ally and love interest. The character replaces Li Shang from the original animated film for an unannounced reason. This is all from Wikipedia, mind you. This is the thing that's interesting. She's supposedly still going to have a love interest. This is, I kind of thought maybe they were going to have it that she didn't need no man, and that's the reason why they were getting rid of Li Shang. What is it? Li Shang is tainted. Is that sort of like the equivalent of what happened to Hank Pym? He sort of backhands his wife in a controversial panel that happened like 40 years ago, and and he's been tainted with that ever since. I guess in this case, Li Shang is a toxic male, and so we can't have him there. We got to change that character completely. And we have to put him on the same level as Mulan because we can't have him be the leader and her falling in love with him. He has to be like an equal of equal standing. So I can understand that part being changed. Let's see, Gong Li as Jan Lang, a powerful and malevolent witch who allies with Bori Khan. She is a new character who did not appear in the original animated film. A witch? I don't know. I don't get that. Jason Scott Lee is Bori Khan, a Hun warrior leader allied with Zan Lang, who is intent on avenging his father's death. The character replaces Shan Yu from the original animated film. So I guess this is our new bad guy. Okay. Zai Ma as Hu Zhao, Mulan's father. Okay. Jet Li is the emperor, a benevolent ruler of China who orders the mobilization of troops via the conscription of one male from each household. A bunch of other, let's see, soldiers. Zaina Tang as Hu Zhao, Mulan's sister. She is a new character who did not appear in the original film. So now she's got a sister. I don't know. A couple of new characters as well. A con artist. Nelson Lee as the Chancellor. Rosalind Chow and Chang Peipei appear in undisclosed roles. Jun Yu voices Mulan's Cricket. So there you have it. They're mixing up the storyline here somewhat because we can't have it. We can't have men have any prominent roles here. Toxic masculinity. Toxic masculinity. I blame Donny Osmond. I blame Donny Osmond for them having to change this whole thing with Mulan. And again, SJWs don't know when to leave things alone. Why is this an issue? Everybody loves those songs. I was at the PillCon this year, the convention, and I was there when the kids were all singing "I'll Make a Man Out of You," and nobody thinks anything of this other than idiot SJWs that got nothing better to do with their time. They got nothing better to do. If you want to make the world a better place, why don't you go out to a soup kitchen, feed the hungry? You're not going to help anyone by taking "I'll Make a Man Out of You" out of Mulan's movie. You know what I mean? You're not going to make the world a better place by making Spider-Man gay. You're not going to help anyone. You're not curing cancer. You're not doing anything that's helping. All you're doing, because, it's a bunch of lily white liberals that are just sitting back doing this, thinking, we need representation. We need to make sure that we have X represented as a superhero, that we don't have a positive male lead in this film. That's the whole problem. Just service the story. Service the story. The story was successful in 1998. It doesn't need you tampering with it. It doesn't need you tinker, tinker, tinker with your little liberal fingers all over it, getting your fingerprints all over the damn thing, because I'm getting mad now, because it was fine to begin with. It was fine to begin with. It didn't need you to improve it. You know the old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it? It ain't broke. We don't need your good intentions fouling up all these great old properties. Now, let's take a look at the final one here. Now, this is the one that made the most news. This is the one that's going to outrage everybody and their sister and brother, I guess. Let's see. The Little Mermaid has been cast, according to The Hollywood Reporter, with up-and-coming actress and singer Halle Bailey. Not to be confused with Halle Berry, because when I first saw the headline, I think a lot of people probably did. They said, Halle Berry is going to be playing the Little Mermaid? Hey, maybe she's a Little Mermaid's like mother's age or something, but I mean, no, it's not her. It's not her. It's Halle Bailey. She has landed the lead role of Ariel in Rob Marshall's upcoming live action The Little Mermaid. Let's see. Rumor has it that Melissa McCarthy is up as the villainous sea witch Ursula. Jacob Tremblay and Awafina will play Flounder and Scuttle, respectively. Let's see. Lin-Manuel Miranda, who worked with Marshall on Mary Poppins tunes, will work on original music for Mermaid along with composer Alan Menken. There was persistent rumors that Zendaya was Disney's top choice for Ariel, but if that was the case, this report makes no mention of it. Bailey 19 is best known as part of the R&B duo Chloe times Haley. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. Her only other acting credit is on Freeform's Yari Shindai series Grownish. All right, so this is interesting. They're going to compose new music for The Little Mermaid, and you know what that means? That means it's going to be all hip hop and stuff like that. That's that's what it means. But all right, so let's get right into this. This got a crap storm on Twitter and social media. We had the hashtag Not My Ariel. We had a lot of people who were particularly offended that the gingers of the world seem to be getting the shaft. We'll get into that in a second, but that was part of it. Another part of it is just basically grown women who were little girls in 1989 when The Little Mermaid was first released, grew up with the character and resisted the thought that, yeah, The Little Mermaid is not a little redhead girl with blue eyes and pale skin. And of course, the same thing that happened to these women that grew up with a beloved character is what happens to all of us comic book fans when we see a beloved character that we grew up with reading in the comics and in other media changed needlessly for representation reasons. They were belittled as racists or, basically as backward thinking people. And again, this is something that infuriates me. This is something that really pushes my buttons. If you want to trigger me, tell me that I'm a racist because I want an established character from the comics, from animated movies, from other series, be it video games, whatever it is, because they did not stick to the original source material when casting. That is a sure way to get me riled up because I am not one of these people that are going to fall for that. That's what SJWs have fallen back on for the past 15, 20 years that they've been doing this. If you oppose this choice, you're a racist. Automatically, you're a racist. Opposing the choices of changing the race of the character does not make you a racist. I've said this on Twitter. I've argued this on Twitter with people. I made the video, which I always point to, which is the most briefest and succinct description of my view on this that you can get, which is called The Folly of Race-Changing Characters. You can check out, as I've always advocated, check out Young Ripa 59, Eric July on Twitter. He has some great videos where he goes off on this. It aggravates him as much. And I bring him up because he's black, obviously. He sees this even more offensive as a black man because it's tokenizing the character by making the already established white character black. So, in other words, you're not creating something new for kids. You're basically saying, look, we're going to take a toy away from a white kid and we're going to make it black because you black kids don't have any toys. Now, that is like the most patronizing thing that you can do. Take some other little girl's Barbie and paint her black and take it away from the kid to give it to a black kid. That's not the way you do something like this to show representation. Now, they could very easily have made another film about a black mermaid, because there's nothing wrong with having a black mermaid. There's nothing wrong with having you know anything, a Japanese mermaid, a Arabic mermaid, just go down the list. There is nothing wrong with that. What there is wrong with is when you take an established character that has a fan base, that grew up with that fan base, that loves that character for what that character represents. To them, you are spitting in the face of those people by changing them willy-nilly just for saying, well, we want to appease these people. We want to appease these people over here. We don't care about you. We don't care what you think. We don't care that you grew up with this. We don't care you were 6 years old when you saw this. We don't care that you had Little Mermaid sheets when you were a little kid. We don't care, whatever. We just care about the SJW agenda. We just care that we're feeling good about ourselves because we're bringing representation into the world. You want to bring representation into the world, like I said, it's a noble endeavor if you are going to create something new. But as always, SJWs don't want to create anything new. It's what we were just talking about with gay Spider-Man. It's too difficult to create a gay character and build up that character. It takes years, it takes decades in a lot of cases to have a character well known. And they don't want to take that time. They don't want to put that energy into it. You just take a character. Let's make Captain America black. That makes it easy. We don't have to worry about creating a popular black character. While meanwhile, characters like Static Shock go languishing. Nobody can convince me, why hasn't there a Static Shock film been made yet? The character's been out for like, when was that created? Like 92, 93? And here we are, 2019. We still haven't had a Static Shock movie or TV show. It's like, no, because why? Because the public at large don't really know Static Shock. So they would have to put a lot of effort in getting him back in the public consciousness, because the television show, the animated series went off the air, I don't know, probably 98, something like that. So you've got like 20 years of kids not knowing who Static Shock is. It's easier just to take another character and, slap whatever it is you want on them. Iceman will make him gay. Captain America will make him black. Hulk will make him Asian. It's the laziest thing in the world to do. And as I said all the time, this doesn't make you a racist to say this is ridiculous. It doesn't need to be this way. As I said before, if you want to say a black actor shouldn't play a white character because black actors are inherently inferior to white actors, then yes, you're a racist. You should shut up. You should go away, rethink your life and your morality. That is not what purists say. Purists are saying, fine, I am sure that whoever the actor is chosen to be, in this case, Bailey, is talented. I'm sure she's a wonderful person. I'm sure that she has a great voice. But the fact is, there is as many redheads that look like the Little Mermaid, that have a good voice, that can act. There is no reason to not choose one of them for this particular role. Now, like I said, you make a sequel, you make a spin-off, you want to make a Japanese mermaid, you want to make a black mermaid, you want to make a Scottish merman, whatever you want to do, you can do it. Nobody is stopping you. But when you have an established character, there is no reason on this good earth for you to have to completely reinvent it to appease. I find it hard to believe that there really is a lot of people that are appeased by this. I think that it's mostly, like I said, lily white liberals that are doing this just to stroke their own ego. I don't really think that. But then again, you go on Twitter and there's a lot of black people that are doing all kinds of, mean memes like, die of hate and I don't know, whatever, and sort of trying to rub it in the face, so to speak, of white people. So there are people that are liberals that are enjoying this, but I think that's more enjoying it out of spite. I don't think anybody really that has no axe to grind is looking for this kind of race bending that's looking to change the established characters, because if that's all you get out of this is the joy of saying, well, we race changed X, what does that say about you? I mean, that, oh, let's see white people's tears, it tastes delicious, or whatever. Is that all you have to, you know, say for yourself for why this is a good idea? And of course, this is another one of these things that I've seen all over the places. Well, and this is, I think, what I find the most offensive. Now, I've handled this debate many, many times, but the most offensive thing about this is when people say, well, the Little Mermaid's white. That doesn't inform her character. That just means that being white is a default factory setting that's temporary. We can just change that to whatever we want, because being white isn't a thing. It's just being a temporary placeholder for some better representation that we can find down the line. I mean, you can look at this with any white character. Is there any white character where his or her being white informs what they are? Now, to use this as an example, you'll have the SJWs saying, why can't Ariel be white? And then you'll say, well, why can't the Black Panther? I mean, why can't the Little Mermaid be black? And you'd say, well, why can't the Black Panther be white? And they would say, well, because the Black Panther comes from Africa and his roots are tied in Africa. So obviously you're taking something away from the character. But by saying well, why can't the Little Mermaid be black? You're also saying that being Danish, which is what the nationality, so to speak, of the Little Mermaid and the characters therein, is not something that is deserving of representation. That does not hold any sway over informing the character's traits. It's just a placeholder. We can change it with anything else. And that to me is the most offensive thing, because that is saying that only being a quote unquote minority makes you unassailable. Only if you're black, Asian, Latino, or something, that informs your character. Being white doesn't inform your character. Being Danish, being Swiss, being whatever you are, doesn't inform your character. That is pure racism. If you say that, you yourself are a racist. You, in fact, are the racist in this conversation. Now, I'll get to this last part here. I know we're starting to go over time, but a lot of people are upset about this, not so much because of uh, but the treatment of gingers, the treatment of redheads. And we could see that, as I've said before many times, this came as no surprise to me, because for some reason Hollywood has something against gingers. Redheads are routinely cast with black actors. I don't particularly understand why. I mean, I am not a conspiracy theorist. I don't know why it seems to be the going uh, route, but this seems to be the way it is. And we can see in this grid here that's been tossed around Twitter. Let's see, Little Orphan Annie, arguably the most famous redhead. Well, maybe to your grandparents, I don't know. Uh, they recast her as black actress. Of course, we have on The Flash, Iris West, black actress. Jimmy Olsen, who is probably the most recognizable redhead. They cast him completely different with Makad Brooks. Just, I don't know, go down the list here. We got on the right hand side, the Flash. We've got Kid Flash, Wally West. Let's see. Some of these are the same twice. We've got Jimmy Olsen again. We've got, of course, Zendaya with Mary Jane, or I guess as they're trying to coyly call her, MJ. Which, again, this is another thing that infuriates me about the Spider-Man movie, but I suppose I'll talk about that more when I actually go see that movie. We'll probably have a little conversation about that. Hawk Girl, cast with a black actress. We've got the other Iris, whom I think we have not seen yet. Starfire, which that's kind of a different situation, because Starfire's an alien. That's sort of like with Zoe Saldana with Gamora. I don't really think that that's considered race changing if you give the character the same traits. In this case, they didn't give her the gold skin. So, I mean, I don't think that was an accurate change, but, you know, it's sort of like I don't think it's quite the same thing. You know what I mean? We're talking about taking a white character that's a redhead and changing them so that they're black. It doesn't really follow suit though with Starfire, I don't think. Let's see, we got the She-Ra characters here. A few others. April O'Neil, of course, they made her a black character now in the new revamping of the Turtles cartoon. Wally West. So again, this seems to be something that is going on with gingers, with redheaded characters. And I didn't really mind it too much with Little Orphan Annie for a reason. Now, I see a lot of people are not going to remember this because this isn't my generation. But when I was a kid, we had sort of the black cast versions. And I honestly didn't understand that when I was a kid. I would like tell my mother, well, why do we have the Wiz? I mean, don't black kids want to see the Wizard of Oz? Well, why did they have to like do this whole thing and stuff? And it's like, well, it's different. It's a different representation of it. The Wiz had different music than the Wizard of Oz. It's a different take, and that I can understand. So if you want to do sort of the hip hop Little Orphan Annie, if you want to do the Wiz, which was sort of contemporary '70s take on the Wizard of Oz with a black cast, that stuff I don't see that as being a problem. But that's something I think we should go back to if this continues to be a trend where it's like this is the only game in town. If you want a redhead Mary Jane, well, we're going to call you a racist and you're going to have to shut up and sit down because you ain't getting a redhead Mary Jane. But like if you were to do do a black Spider-Man movie, which we already have Miles Morales, and you can have a completely black cast, that's fine. I don't mind. I just object to having these characters that have been around for so long being tampered with for the sake of SJW politics. That's the whole problem. This is not being done for the right reasons. This is being done just as a thumb in the eye to people saying, look, you love this character. This is the character that you grew up watching on television, reading in the funny papers, whatever it is. We're going to do it this way now. And if you don't like it, we're going to call you a racist. That's basically all it's there to do. It's to try to sort of sucker in people who are going to complain so they can label you. And like I said, me, I don't care. I'm going to call this out each and every time I see it. You're not going to scare me into silence by saying, well, we're going to call you a racist. I got two words for you, and they're not Merry Christmas. There is nothing racist about saying, look, have the characters adapted the way they were created. I wouldn't want to see Black Panther be white. I don't care if Black Panther 2 doesn't have a white actor in the entire movie. I will still go see it. I do not care. I do not feel like that like white people need to be represented in a majority black movie. I think they would have done better off if they took out Everett Ross, to be totally honest with you. But this seems to be the thing where it's sort of like that will publicly shame you. Will publicly shame you. And personally, as a Christian, as a born again Christian, I do not even see things in terms of race. So you cannot shame me into thinking, and that's how they shut a lot of people up, is by saying, well, we'll shame you into shutting up because you don't want to be thought of as a racist, do you? Well, Jesus Christ died for everyone. I believe that. He loves everyone. And you could not convince me to think in terms of race after accepting Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. And I don't like to get, too personal or anything in these streams, but you think you can just call me a racist. It's going to just bounce off my back like water off a duck. It ain't going to mean nothing to me. So I always try to, you know, for lack of a better term, embolden people who want to complain about this, but they don't want to be seen as a racist. They don't want people to think of them any less of them. And it's true. I mean, there is no reason why you should be thought less of because you want your fictional characters. And that's another complaint. I have seen this one quite a few times. Well, the Little Mermaid isn't real. You understand that, don't you? Are you going to be upset if they don't cast a purple person as Ursula? Shut up, fool. Come on. Who are you trying to kid? If they cast Storm as a white woman, you would be complaining just as loudly. So, don't make stupid arguments like that. The idea is to recreate the fictional character as closely to the source material as possible. And I understand some things can be changed a little bit here and there, It doesn't necessarily have to be slavish, but you want these characters to look as much like the source material as possible, because that's what we're familiar with. That's what we grew up with. That's what we loved. That's what we cherished. That's what we want to see. And so when you get disappointed, and the reason why I think I want to sort of stress this now is because this is normies that are complaining about the Little Mermaid. This is not. I think a lot of times we get second class citizen status. Oh, it's them fanboys, them nerds acting up again. They don't like a black Human Torch. They don't like a black Jimmy Olsen. Oh, those guys, they're incorrigible. But but now we've got normies. We've got like 35-year-old women that grew up with the Little Mermaid, and now people are starting to sit back and think, well, gee, they're complaining about it, and they don't have an axe to grind. They're not, you know, they're not obsessively compulsive over their comic book characters and this and that like these so-called fanboys. And so that's why I think it's important time to really point this out and say, look, you don't have to be ashamed of this. You don't have to be ashamed of saying, look, I want my characters in live action to look like they have on the printed page or in the cartoons or in whatever it is, the video games. There is nothing wrong with you for wanting that. That is in fact natural. And again, it's not really a race issue, because I know there's a lot of black people that I've met, a lot of Asian people that I've met that want to see characters represented faithfully. I mean, they would have you think that basically it's just a bunch of uptight white people that are going to cry and moan about this. No, there's a lot of people of all races that want to see these characters represented, uh, to the source material, accurately to the source material. It doesn't really have anything to do with race. It's not like there's some uniform lockstep that you have to be in to be right or wrong on this. You have to just have a working knowledge of the original source material and want to be faithful to that. I think, it's something that I think is going to be dealt with more in the coming years, maybe, that it's going to lose its stigma. I think that's what I'm trying to say. It's going to lose its stigma, where people saying this is going to be kind of a passing fad, I believe, because I think a lot of people are going to be more and more inclined to say, look, the SJWs are going too far. It's getting ridiculous. You're taking it too far when it's like every redhead can't be represented faithfully. And as I've said, mark my words, Jean Grey is not going to be a redhead in in the Marvel X-Men when the MCU starts doing X-Men. And it seems to be obvious. And a lot of people are complaining about it. So, all right, again, as I always say when I talk about things like this, it's a contentious issue, but try to discuss it with civility and respect. If you have any comments, leave them in the comments below. I will try to read and answer any questions and all questions and comments on next week's video. As I said before, I think I got tickets for Far From Home, which will be Wednesday. I will be seeing that on, let me see, I'm trying to find the date, the 10th. So Wednesday, the 10th of July, we should be good to go unless there's any unforeseen incidents, knock wood, God willing. We will bring you that review. I'm hearing a lot of good things about it, but from what I understand, the people that didn't like Homecoming still didn't like it, because basically it's still Disney Spider-Man. It's still Disney Spider-Man, I think. Like I said, I'm going into it. I know I don't like Hot Aunt May. I know I don't like Race Changed Mary Jane. I know I don't like Ned being the guy that knows who he is. But I'm gonna try to enjoy it from Mysterio, and I like Tom Holland as Spider-Man. So, I imagine it's just gonna be just a fun romp. That's what I'm looking forward to. I mean, I always keep my, uh, you know, keep myself in check. I don't want to try to make this to be a bigger disaster or a great Oscar-worthy film. I just see it as what it is, take it in for what it is, and hopefully enjoy it. Okay, so until next we meet, this is Johnnie Torch reminding you once again, keep that flame burning brightly, and I'll be with you again real soon.